Hi guys! It's October, the spooky month. I'm Beth, and this is Beth Ramsden Crafts. Do you like my Halloween nails? I'm really enjoying customizing them whenever I do bother to paint them. Anyway, these little guys are what I'm going to show you this week. Now, I'm self-taught with crochet. I haven't really been doing it very long, but I enjoy making these. And if I can do it, then so can you. I have already made a video on some of the crochet basics, so I'll add a link here. Feel free to go and watch it and come back for this one. These pumpkins are made in 3 parts, with optional eyes. The body, which is made from a rectangular shape, which is then sewn and stuffed. The leaf and the stem. Here's the wool I'll be using. Fairly cheap acrylic yarn, and I'll be using a 3mm hook throughout. If you have thinner or thicker yarn or differently sized hooks, just give it a go. I like a smallish hook so the stuffing doesn't show through, not too big gaps between the stitches, but there are no hard and fast rules, so just experiment and see how it goes. Here are some of the other yarns I'm using. You will also need some fabric glue if you're doing felt eyes, scissors, a large yarn needle, safety eyes are optional with the shank or felt for your eyes. And you'll also need stuffing for the insides. Starting with the yarn for the body, leave about 6 inches before the knot for sewing it together, and make a slip knot type loop. Slide it onto the hook and chain 14. This is just yarn over hook, pull through the loop on the hook, and repeat, making a chain of interlocked loops. Now inspect your chain. It seems to have a front with sort of paired loops in line and a back which will have a single ridge of loops. It looks almost like a backbone. We'll be putting the hook through these to get ourselves started. So start with the loop next to the hook here. We're going to loop the yarn over the hook first though, then through, yarn over, pull a loop through so you now have 3 loops on the hook, then yarn over and pull a loop through all 3 loops. This stitch is called a half treble here in the UK or a half double in the US. So our first row is all this stitch. Just continue to the end. Make sure to stitch all the way to the end. The last one goes right next to the slip knot here. At the end, we chain 1 and turn our work around, ready for the next row. Notice your 6-inch tail is on the right side now, close to your hand. Keep track of this as you go because we'll be alternating between stitching in the front and back loops. And I know how often I get interrupted. It's hard to keep track of row numbers, so I like a visual clue to keep me right. We'll be making the same stitch as before, but in the front loops only, which is written as FLO. This is the side closest to you. Look at the edge. You can see the interlocking V shapes. We'll only go through the half of the V that is closest to us, so through 1 strand of wool per stitch. Remember to yarn over your hook before you push through. Pull a loop through to make 3 on the hook, Then pull a loop through all 3 loops. Again, yarn over hook, poke through the next front loop only, yarn over hook and pull through to make 3 on the hook, yarn over hook and pull through all 3. Continue this for each stitch until the end. Again, make sure not to miss the last stitch. You may need to look right at the side to see the V that you need. Then, hook through the front loop and make the last stitch. For the end of every row, we will chain 1 and then turn it around. Now our tail is on the left, far from your hand, and it's the back loops on the far side that we're now stitching into. Yarn over, hook through the back loop next to the hook and pull through your 3rd loop, then a loop through all 3. Continue this stitch all the way to the end. Get that last stitch, chain 1 and turn. Once again, the tail is near, so it's a row of front loops only on your near side. You'll have the hang of it by now. Just continue building up the rectangle and don't worry about any wonky edges, as they will be sewn and tucked in at the end. Now I've made sure to stop at a point where my tail and the working yarn are at the same side of the rectangle. For my yarn and hook size, the width of my finished rectangle is about 2.5 inches or 7 centimeters wide and about 5.5 inches or 14 centimeters long. This is about 17 rows of the half treble stitch. Again, you don't have to be exact. Feel free to experiment with the sizes and vary up your pumpkins. Looking at each side, you can see one has more defined ridges and one is a little smoother. The smooth side will be our right or outer side. Don't cut the working yarn from the ball yet. Fold your rectangle in half with the right sides together on the inside and with the 6-inch starting tail towards you on the right side. We're going to join these 2 ends with a row of slip stitches. Pushing the hook through the back loops of the side closest to you and the front loops of the furthest side, yarn over hook and pull a loop through. You have 2 on your hook. Then you slip the back loop over the front loop, leaving just 1 on the hook. This is your slip stitch. Repeat this all the way along, joining the back and front loops of each side and a slip stitch to move along, making the least bulky join. And then I chain 1 at the end. You can see I've misaligned my edges here. Now I could pull the yarn out and redo it, but it won't make much difference really, because it'll be sewn in at the end. I'll flip it round to check that the join is okay. Yep, it's not too obvious. At this point I cut my yarn from the ball, leaving about 6 inches again. And I pull the cut end through the last stitch I made and turn it all out so the right side is facing outwards now. grab your yarn needle and thread one end. Now at regular intervals, we're just going in and out, making a running stitch all the way around. Then pull it tight to close up this end. I like to go around once or twice more in the same direction and pulling tight, just picking up a stitch here and there to secure the end well. Then I knot off the end, push the needle through from the outside to the inside, and either snip it or leave the tail on the inside. Now this is the optional point where if you're using the safety type eyes, you would put them in now. Space them out however you prefer, push them through a hole in the stitch, and push the plastic washer all the way onto the shank. You can also cut out black felt shapes like these, or even embroider eyes and a mouth on at the end. Now it's time for stuffing. Tease it out and shove it in. Just squeeze and estimate the amount that you need. And next, we'll repeat this running stitch to gather up the other end. Along with extra stitches again to tighten. And this time we push the needle all the way through from the center on one side to the center on the opposite side. Pull tight and squeeze. Push your needle from center to center, compressing each time to give it that classic pumpkin shape. Once it's nice and tight, just knot it off and lose the end. Next, I'll show you how to make the stem. We start with this brown yarn and a slip knot. You don't need a long tail, just an inch or two maybe. Add 2 chain stitches and then push your hook into the first stitch where the slip knot is and pull a loop through it. Then pull a loop through the 2 on your hook. This makes a single crochet in the US or a double crochet in the UK. Push your hook back into the same space again, pull a loop through, then a loop through the 2, and that's 2 stitches in one space. Repeat this until you have 5 stitches. They'll start to fan out naturally to make a circle. Now, look for the V shape of the first single or double crochet that you made. Push your hook through the V, both strands, and pull a loop through. Then a loop through the 2. This will join up your circle. Now we move over to the next stitch along. Look for the V and make another stitch. Move along to the next stitch and keep repeating this, and you'll see the stitches will start to curl up and to create a cup shape. We'll be working into the inside of the cup shape. At this point, I like to turn it inside out. This part is the top of our stem. Now make sure the short tail is pulled tight and then snip it like this, fairly short. Now we're working around the outside of the cup shape. Continue working your stitches around and around until the stem becomes the length that you like. Now this can be pretty fiddly as the diameter of the stem is so small. If you're really struggling, then go back and add an extra stitch at the start. Where we made 5 stitches in one at the start, do 6 instead, or even 7. Once your stem is long enough, do a slip stitch and snip the tail with a few inches to spare for sewing on with, and pull the tail through the loop. Thread your yarn needle and choose one end to be the top. Now we sew it on all round. Take 1 stitch from the body and 1 from the stem. 1 from the body, 1 from the stem. Once it's secure, just knot it and push the end out the side and snip it off. Now the last part to crochet is the leaf. This is some really cheap yarn, but I like the colour. Start with the slip knot on your hook and a short tail. We chain 6 and push the hook into the first stitch, the one at the knot. We pull the loop through and slip stitch. You've now got a closed loop. Now we chain 2, put the yarn over the hook and push the hook right through the middle of the loop into the big hole. Yarn over and pull the loop through the hole. Now you've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull a loop through the first 2 loops on your hook. Now you've got 2. Then yarn over again and pull through the last 2. This is called a double crochet in the US or a treble crochet in the UK. Repeat this 3 more times, so you have 4 altogether, plus the chain 2 at the start. Now, we chain 3, push the hook through the first of these chains and do a slip stitch to join them. This creates the point or bump at the tip of the leaf. Yarn over your hook and continue to create 4 more of these double or treble stitches, each one wrapping around the loop. Make 4 of these, then chain 2. Hook through the big loop and do a slip stitch to join. Now snip a long enough tail to sew with and pull the end through the loop. I like to tie a little knot here just to join the tails. As with the stem, thread your yarn needle and stitch it onto the pumpkin. a knot and take the tail out at the side. I also like to hide the other tail like this. Snip and squish to hide the ends. I'm doing felt eyes on this one, so I'll glue them on now. And we have some cute little pumpkins. You could give them scary faces or use some totally different colours. Bonus! Before you go and crochet your own pumpkin, I want to show you an alternative stitch to use for the body. It's made entirely using slip stitches and gives it an almost knitted appearance. Start with the long tail and slip knot as before, and then chain 15. Look for the back of the chain for those back bumps. Push your hook through yarn over, pull through and slip stitch. Then hook into the next bump and repeat. We make slip stitches all the way along until the end. At the end, chain 1 and turn it around. Now, we look for the V shapes on top again. We're going to be working slip stitches into the front loops only, the ones closest to you. Start with the one next to your hook. Push your hook through, only one strand. Pull a loop through and slip stitch. Continue this until the end. Chain 1 and turn. And it's front loops again. For every row in this one, just keep repeating and build up your rectangle. I find this technique slower than the first one I showed you, but it does give a really nice finish, mimicking a knit stitch, which is good to know if you're not a knitter. I think having a variety of colours and stitches together gives these little guys a lovely variety. Okay, here we are at about 35 or 36 rows in. I've stopped with both tails at the same end, and with my combination of yarn and hook, it's about 4.5 inches or 12 centimetres by 2.5 inches or 6.5 centimetres. Don't cut the yarn yet. Remember, you need to join the ends to make a tube first. No, don't cut it. No! Oh. Well, that's done. Okay, I pulled the loose end through my last stitch, which was just a chain 1 at the end. And let's look at this nice stitch. It's hard to tell if there's any difference between sides, so I just choose one and fold my rectangle in half, ready to join up as before. I've got to reattach my yarn first though. I've looked up how to do the weaver's knot, so here goes nothing. Apparently this is how spinning mills join their yarn if it breaks while it's being spun. It's very secure and you can trim the ends really short. It looks good. Now, we're ready to go again. The shorter tail is towards you, and this time we join the front loops only from the side closest to you, and the back loops only from the side furthest from you. As before, pick up one loop from each side and pull a loop through. Then, slip stitch to move along. Repeat for each stitch all the way along. As you will see, I have managed to misalign my sides again. What is wrong with me? I end up trying to pick up a loop from the very end to join it with. So, now that I've fudged that, you can now trim that tail from the ball. Leave a 6-inch tail to sew with, and the rest of the assembly is exactly as before. Once it's all together, you'll have a little pumpkin just like this. Now let's compare this stitch with the other. They have a nice difference in texture. I think it'll be good to make a few of each type and mix them all up together. I think it's a great project for those who don't like working in the round. It comes together quickly and you could line these little guys up or string them from a garland to decorate for Halloween. I love Halloween. It will be a strange one this year. I still hope to take my daughter out dressed up for a walk. She loves to walk in the dark. And I'll give her sweets on the night instead of going door to door. What are you guys going to do this year? Let me know in the comments. What do you think of these little pumpkins? I made them too. They're polymer clay, hollow, and they sit on these battery-operated LED lights, which have a little velvet cover over them. Perfectly realistic pumpkins for your dolls or your miniatures. Thank you all for watching. I hope you'll try this out yourselves. Have a safe and spooky Halloween. Bye!